but in the gaming space, it's not, oh, everyone is doing low key toxicity, and that means everyone's going to do like more extreme toxicity soon. It's more about how people that test the waters are received in your community. And the communities that have done the best job setting the stage, and some of them have concrete tools like an in-game code of conduct that you can sort of put in front of people in a VR space. What you find in those sort of strong communities is someone starts towing the line, starts saying, hey, I'm going to toss out these slurs and see if I can get a laugh. And they don't get a laugh. And people say, hey, man, this is not the place for that. In the spaces that are a little bit less effective at maintaining that, you'll see those people testing the waters. And the worst case is they get a few laughs and they start to feel even more emboldened. But often it's as simple as no one really pushes back on them.
Mhm.
And the system doesn't push back on them if they're not using something like ToxMod to detect it. And so even though the code of conduct says that it was bad, their experience is, well, I just did it and it wasn't bad. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing it. And that's the leading indicator, is how much people sort of are continuing to test those waters and how far they're trying to push it without any repercussions. And the more that happens, the more they get emboldened, and the more they start to feel entitled, to the point that now if you come back in, and this happened, not to sort of poke at anyone in particular, but Helldivers had this problem fairly recently with their Discord community, where it started out as a really good community, but rapidly within a matter of a couple weeks, it descended. And when the developers came back in and said, hey, this is not what we're about, at that point, these bad actors had developed this sense of entitlement where they were saying to the developers, this is not your space, this is our space. You don't get to tell us what to do. And that's when it really starts being a difficult problem to solve.
That's crazy. And the truth is, any game that gets popular is going to have bad players enter that arena. It's just, I guess it's up to the studio to stay on top of it. And you can tell people like trust and safety and community, trust and safety. And unfortunately, they usually wait till like 0 hour, like, oh, we got to do something now. Like, oh, it's.
Yeah, I mean, think about like parenting or a school or any other place with kids, right? You have people that are saying fart because they think it's funny, and maybe you let them sort of do that, and it's not the biggest deal. And then one of them tries saying the N word because they also have heard that they're not supposed to say that. And then one of them tries to kick another student, and like, okay, you need to be setting really clear barriers and making it clear there are some things that will not be permitted, or else they'll just keep pushing until they find those barriers. And that's a natural part of human psychology. It doesn't mean these are evil people any more than the average kid is evil.
Yeah.
It just means that you haven't given them the structure for them to feel like they know what's expected of them in this space.
I think that's so well said, and I mean, you gave me the parenthood example, which again hits home, right? And it makes me just think, you know what? Like, it's up to the parent to step in and say, "Hey, you can't do that. You can't say that. That's not right." Like, you have to discipline or find a way to kind of educate your child about that stuff. And I guess the same goes in your example. Like, if no one comes in for the first week and says, "Hey, you can't do that. You can't do that," they're going to keep pushing it. And I did this podcast with a PhD. Her name was Ruth Diaz, and she does like she talks to bullies online and trolls and understands why they do it, and it aligns with what you're saying. It's like, first of all, they may not be the most popular people in the world, but if they get a laugh, then they have someone to go along with them, and then they're going to continue to poke and pry it. And most people will be alienated by this person, but they'll have a little group that keeps coming. And if no one comes to say no to them or stop, right, they're going to keep doing it and take over. And at some point, it's just going to be too hard of a problem to try and solve. And that might be where you then have to come mute them or ban them or kick them out, right? You don't want to start by kicking them out. You want to be able to educate them and help fix the problem. But if it gets too far out of control, it's too hard to keep control of.
Exactly. Yeah.
You've been a part of Community Clubhouse now for since the beginning. I think since the first GDC in San Fran. And why? What's important about Modulate being a part of Community Clubhouse?
The word community. I mean, it's You said before, did we always think about voice because there's text, there's all this other stuff? We are a voice solution.